Well, hello. Here we are. I've got my little drawing. Hello, David. Thank you. Sorry, I know it was a bit of a last minute one. Let me just bring it up live here so I can read some of the comments and things as well as they're happening. So 4 a.m. Flip me, that is dedication. Right. Well, I'll make a start. This is Dunluce Castle, and we're going to add some color into this. We're going to use the Daniel Smith set. Always find it easiest to remember which one's which by having that little bit of acetate that gives me all the colors on it. Also is really helpful for lives because then you can actually describe the colors that you're using. So I'm going to use probably just use one or two brushes. This is my beloved flat wash, the 3/4 inch one. And just now the water, I was going to change my water. I had just recorded another video there, so there's another one coming, but I just thought I would just use that. Now obviously water can really influence the color that you're using. I always tend to start with the sky, so we're going to be taking some, let me get these colors the right way around so I can name everything. We're going to take some cerulean blue, and I'm going to darken it down ever so slightly with just a little bit of the Payne's grey. Okay, so and then it's gonna drop it on here. There's some lines in the sky, and we're just gonna move this across here. And there's that nice, you know, when the sky breaks. So I'm gonna take a little bit of the ultramarine blue and just mix that in for those slightly, just those little areas of light there. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little quick tap of the splatter there, and I think what I might do is just do a slight loose wash underneath of that, mixing up that cerulean again with a little bit of that blue. Now I want to really weaken that down so that I can add that to that area here. Now I'm going to go really close to the horizon line, so that means I've got my hairdryer at the ready. Let's join these two up here. And actually, do you know what? Do something risky and just let that bleed ever so slightly together. Okay, now that's all that I'm going to do in the sky. Now, what I do once I've got the sky done is then I keep the sky really simple. Now, for certain areas, like I can take, let me mix, just for demonstration purposes, let me take a little bit more of that cerulean added to the ultramarine and the Payne's grey mix. And the clouds have some sort of dappling in them, so just gonna let them work together that little bit. So this is probably more than I would normally do, but just to kind of model that. And then as that dries, that's obviously going to really settle into the painting in the picture. Okay, so what we've got then in the foreground is grass. So I'm going to keep away from this because I don't want these two to bleed. So I'm going to use some undersea green and a little bit of sap green. Undersea green is a color that I use an awful lot, so just going to look and see what areas. So I always go quiet when I'm trying to focus on certain things. And then this, so these are rocks that are really sort of in front of us as we're looking, and then I'm using really using the flat edge brush to its full advantage to denote the fact that there's some grass really that's in front of us. So this is layer one. So at layer one, I'm really sorry, I was just reading that comment there. At layer one, I am not expecting great things. I'm just getting down the information. Good night, David. Thanks for watching for a short amount of time. This will be online anyway, sure, if you want to watch it at a later date, but thanks for logging on. So just bringing that in. So you were saying there, did I sketch the castle? Did I do it with a fine liner? No, this was done with an acrylic ink marker. So let me find said acrylic ink marker. This was it here, acrylic paint marker, sorry. And roughly cost, I think it was about £5 for two of them. They're really strong, give that nice kind of glossy feel. Something like you would get with a Indian ink and dip pen. So just there where this grass is going. Just tilting this brush, dabbling with this kind of emotion and moving it around, and that's going to really build up a little bit of depth. Now as we go through, you'll see this all sort of add up. And the other thing that I want to do then is okay, so we're not going to go to the water as yet. We are going to mix the color of the castle. Now it has this kind of a, how would you describe it? It's like a brown that is light with almost a slight kind of a bit of yellow ochre in it. So I'm just trying to think through how we're going to arrive at this. Now, whenever you're talking about mixing colors, for me the best way to describe mixing colors is the pendulum swing. So you're not going to get it first go. You might the odd time, but I mean, I've been mixing for years and it does take time to find. So we're going to start with the base of the burnt umber, and then I'm going to take some, we're kind of close there, some of the Payne's grey. Yeah, I think that's really where we want to go. I might add in a little bit of the buff titanium just to lift it ever so slightly. Yeah, and then we can deepen from that point. Now I'll take a little bit of geothite, which is a brown ochre, just to warm it up ever so slightly. Okay, so that's a lot of watercolor in that little pad there. Yes, you're welcome, La Mancha 958. It was in a class that I was taking and a lady had been using them and I just thought they were absolutely fantastic. So I can see that there are 11 of you on watching, so please do ask as many questions as you want. The whole point of this was to be able to facilitate that if you guys have any questions about the way that I paint. And I want to say really clearly that I really believe there is common use, but there's not proper use. So you use it the way you use it, and we're all learning and growing as we go. So I am deliberately, back to the painting, I am deliberately leaving lots of white spaces in between. That would be a real underpinning point of how I paint. So just, I mean, you moving this across and using this corner of the brush. I mean, you can already see I've demonstrated using it horizontally, I've demonstrated using it vertically, and now using the point of it. So the flat edge brush is just fantastic for being versatile. You know, it just has so many different applications. So get these questions going, folks. Always easier doing a live whenever you have interaction. So please do feel free to do that. So this is not blocking out, and I haven't wet. I've become so aware of how much, I was reading up on Turner's style, and apparently, you know, he would have really wet the page and dropped the colours in, and I absolutely love Turner, and I like experimenting as well, but this is how I use watercolour. I don't wet the page first. I work in blocks and layers, and this is layer 1. Just noticing here, is there anywhere else? The paper that I'm using is the Langton. I should probably show you that so you know it is perfect for plein air. I was using it yesterday when I did the video of Nendrum, so there's that picture of Nendrum from yesterday, and it's on this. This is the exact same block. It's the Langton by Dealer Rowney. Good morning, Thea. You're very welcome for the live. Just waking up in the US. Goodness, it must be early there. And this is glued on all 4 sides. Then it has an area just in this little piece here that isn't glued, and then you slide a knife round and it comes off. But absolutely fantastic for painting plein air. It just means that you're not then going to have to, you know, tape it down or even use a board, which is just really, really functional. Okay. Any other questions, anybody? So what I want to do is, let me see if it'll let me mute for a second. I'm going to hair dry this so that we can keep moving on. Now, I much prefer not using the hair dryer because I find that the hair dryer, the heat of it seems to dull the pigment somewhat. You can already begin to see this kind of settling in. One of the absolute joys of watercolour is that it is so unpredictable, and whenever you begin to really just embrace that, it becomes so much fun. Just watching, one of the things I noticed with the Daniel Smith is, even in the palette, I don't think you can see it there. You can see the nearly a granule sort of settling and separating out, and I love this with the green. I also need to mention that my little pup Bonnie is Colorsmith is actually at work. I actually find, when I'm working, I have a very practical job in a school 4 days a week, and I find it really helpful just having something on in front of me. So I think it's mega productive. So just say that to your boss, I'll be fine. Yes, I was mentioning that if you hear barking, it's Bonnie or shaking. Bonnie's looking for somewhere nice to lie. Come on, you and lie down here. Okay, Pop, good girl. So I'm going to mute. I'm going to dry this, and then we'll go on to layer two. So talk amongst yourselves. No, I appreciate that is very annoying. That I just have to mute to let it dry, but for the purposes of the live, it means that we can continue to work quite nicely there. The kind of pop that Bonnie is a Westie mixed with a Bichon, and she's very good. On a Friday, she, for some reason, they're so intelligent. They know that she knows that I am off, and therefore she gets to come out to or not off. I'm out in the studio working. Isn't it interesting when you find something you love that actually um you just don't consider it as work? Fancy hairdryer. I think that was my mum's from about oh goodness, it's probably about 15 years old. Anyway, it does the job. Okay, so now we're going to attend to this bit of the sea. Now the colour that I use most for the sea is the phthalo blue and some cobalt turquoise. So I typically do 3 lifts. I've got out of the way of explaining this. So I typically do 3 lifts. That would be to get me to the right quantity. So Colorsmith, not much time for questions. No problem at all, just you watch and work. And okay, so we're going to mix these in together. And a little bit of Payne's Grey just to darken it down a little bit. Now I also have this, can't remember what that, yes, let's go with that. It's a super granulating colour from, not a super granulating, it's Schminke. And it's the Schminke neutral tint, so I've just added some of that in. Now this is this brush is really quite loaded, so I've just drained off some of it. And we're taking the brush and using it in this horizontal motion. You use your mum's hairdryer as well. Thank the Lord for mums with hairdryers. Okay, so just using this kind of a motion, and actually just, it's actually not straight on the horizon, so just angling the brush to get that kind of an idea. Okay, so we're going to go right to the edge, which is now dry. just constantly changing hand position as well, you know, because all of those things really add to that final piece. Now this is the first layer on the ocean, so it's this beautiful. You can tell that the sky above was good that day because it's really, really rich. Okay, so let's drop loads of pigment on this side here. And actually, let's get just a little hap of the lava splatter. And then right across, we'll move across here, but what I want to do is just let me rinse the brush so that I can begin to dilute this pigment a little bit for this area, because it's much weaker here, and I want there to be a differentiation between these two areas. So just moving the brush in that kind of a motion, and then we're gonna start moving in to block around these areas here. And this is dry, so when watercolor is dry, it is almost nearly totally waterproof. Obviously you can lift it a little bit, and also the other thing that I can do is drag. So I've rinsed the brush again so that it's not dragging on lots more pigment, and we're going to then underpin the sea with this color here. Okay, and then we can attend to adding in a little bit more of the ocean detail. Now what I will do is, don't know whether you've seen this before, but you just squeeze off the excess water on the brush. It's a little line, a little too heavy there for me, and then I'll just lift it. Now also I can lift it across here, and it will successfully do that. Okay, so we can add in much more detail. That's layer one. Now what we'll do then is we're going to move across. What does he say? S. Welsh. Ah, Mr. Welsh, you should be working hard here, huh? Unbelievable. He's teaching the class. And then we'll have Nadesta. Sorry, I'm probably not pronouncing that right at all. It's, what did you say? It is so easy but hard for me. You're afraid of watercolor? Watercolor, I don't need to be afraid of watercolor. It's just learning to work with it. Okay, so I tend to mix from the colors that I have. So let's take the sky color that we mixed a while before there, and I'm going to take some of that undersea. I'm going to make it really rich, and we're going to then, now some of that isn't dry, which is going to work okay for us. And this is a much darker area of the rock. And then also down here, it's darker too. So let's block that in there, leaving little bits of white. Let's move my picture over slightly here. And we're leaving little bits of white because I think keeping the white in, what I've discovered is I like doing it, and it's almost part of like a natural style for me, but it also adds in a lightness to the whole watercolor by the end of it. Hopefully you'll see that as we keep going here. But you can already begin to see it build. Now, the brush is really full here, so what I want to do is, there we go, is just begin to bring in these sorts of areas here. And this, I just noticed this bit of the rock here is that bit darker too. Monster Deliciosa. I love the way you paint and capture shapes. I've used many of your works as inspiration for my architecture classes, and they're always prettier than any digital rendering I could come up with. Thank you so much. Lovely, thanks for that encouraging comment. Okay, so this is layer 2, and we're going to continue to work away here. I'm just noticing that on this section here, it's much darker where these rocks are. So, and also this bit here has some of that darker green there too. So I get the color on my brush, and then I look around at the thing that I'm painting and think, right, is this anywhere else? Do I need to add this in? And I find that really helpful. It also means that you're not going to waste colors. The Daniel Smith are more expensive watercolors, and not that you want to be afraid of using them, but also I don't want to really waste them. The brush, you need to tell me, how do I pronounce that phonetically so I can get your name right? Nadezhda, is that right? Nadezhda? That's a 3/4 flat wash brush, and it's from the Simply range by Dale O'Reilly, which is about, I think it's about £5 for four different sizes of brushes, which is just great. And you know, I have brushes that were so much more expensive and I never use them. So it just shows you that you don't have to spend a fortune to get a brush that you love. And also, if you love a brush that isn't overly expensive, tremendous, work with it. Don't be thinking that it has to be something really, really dear for it to work for you. Okay, the other thing that you can do is use half of the brush rather than the full size of it. So that's just applying a little bit of pressure. And again, it's going to give you that kind of nice variance as well. So what I want to do is add in more sap green. So it's that little bit lighter for some of these as well. And I can actually provide now, that's going to work quite nicely, provide little washes underneath as well. So blocking certain areas with this lighter tone is then going to come through quite nicely to give that idea that this is rich grass that you're working with in front of you. Can you see it begin to build? Hopefully you can. Okay, now we're going to move across to the building here. And I wonder, actually let me mute for 2 seconds, let me get this sea dry so that I know that we're not going to have massive bleed in the sea. So bear with me, talk amongst yourselves again. And back again, thank you for your patience there. Okay, so in looking at this, I was just starting to see the sea there, and so we have retained some of the detail. Now obviously this isn't maybe a really good thing to explain about with the hairdryer. You're going to lose lots of the kind of modeling that happens when it dries naturally, because when watercolor dries naturally, if there's a blob, it's obviously going to have this kind of hard edge to it, so you'll lose some of that with this. But what I want to do is take that phthalo blue again, or that phthalo, what did I use? I used the phthalo blue, the neutral tint, and a little bit of Payne's grey. And in this layer then I can add more interest, and this is what I love. You see, when you start to get these layers, it really just starts to build. Can you see? Isn't that great? Thamer, lovely. What are you saying? Lovely. Thank you for walking us. I thought you were going to say waking you up. I do apologise if I did. Lovely. Thank you for walking us through your process. So much fun to watch and learn. I'll have to check out that paper for plein air. That paper for plein air, along with the Derwent. I feel like I should be getting commission from Derwent ink tints. Along with the Derwent ink tints pencils, is just a great kit to have for doing any plein air. Now, also noticing that there's a line of the horizon that is bolder here. So just notice whatever it is that you're painting. Really, really helpful. Now that's got too much on it, so I don't want to weaken it. I just want to not have as much on my brush, because it's going to mean that I can get lines that are finer. And also, actually, they're a little bit bluer, and what I mean by bluer is they have more ultramarine in it, so I'm just going to notice that while I just keep it nice and light. And then it curls around these rocks here, so let's do that as well. Go right up to that edge. And is there a little bit there? There's slightly. Okay. In here as well, there's just that little bit of detail. But can you see how, so that's 2 layers, and I mean, I really won't want to do much more with the sea. Now, what I will do is, because there's effectively like a track where the watercolor is going to go, I can lift the color that I was using of that, the phthalo, and I can just drop it in now, and it should stay along the lines that I have already set for it because it's not dry yet. And then I'm going to take that right up to the horizon now. There is, there we are, there's a little bit of land that must be like a wee island or something across there. Okay, so we're just going to leave that there and move that across ever so slightly. And then that gives that kind of nice richness moving out to something lighter, which is going to lead your eye as well. Now, you could add more to the sky if you wanted to. It's annoying for the sky with when you dry it with a hairdryer, because it looks kind of, it just doesn't have the same impact. And you can see what I mean by this, kind of where the pigment isn't as rich. It kind of blands it or rubs it a bit of colour. Okay, Colorsmith says, don't forget to like. Yes, do like and subscribe, hit the bell icon, head to my website, woodwardswatercolours.co.uk, all of those things. If you're interested in this painting and you want it on your wall, get in touch and you can buy it off me, no problem at all. If you're not, totally fine, thanks for watching. Lisa Kopner says, I've been using my intense pencils way more since watching your videos, a bit afraid of them. That's great. I think that, you know, art supplies, from what I can understand, there seems to be this idea that there is a proper way to use them. And I really just disagree with that. I think there is common use, but there isn't proper use. And I would therefore really resist anything that's saying you must use them this way, because it's art. You've got to get to be creative with them, you know. So just enjoy them and discover how you use them. I think that's the best thing, is to discover how it works for you and how you're most comfortable using them. That way you will use them more and it'll be a joy rather than being totally miserable. Yes to the improper uses. Yeah, it's just find the way that you like to use them and enjoy using them, and you'll likely inspire somebody else to do the same. Okay, so I'm going to look more of the structure. This is Dunluce Castle, which is in the north coast of Northern Ireland. If you've never visited it, it is a place well worth visiting. It is really very beautiful. I'm going to drop down to a smaller brush here. So let's go now to, this is the same range. This is a number 12 flat shader in that Simply range. Should give me a bit more control just to find these areas that are darker, because, so everything moves from general to specific. So because we're now moving on to layer 2 and in some areas layer 3, then it means that I'm going to want to be able to have a little bit more control to make applications. So broad strokes for the first couple of layers, and then tends to narrow down somewhat after that. I'm very conscious that the sea, conscious that the sea's there. Colorsmith supply hoarding is a real problem here. Yeah, I know. And if it becomes a business, then you've got legitimate means of expenditure, but even that can get ridiculous. So I don't need anything now. I had bought some art supplies to really just demo them on YouTube, and I have a real value for demoing something when I've never tried it before, because I think it gives you a real idea as to how somebody sort of gets the grip with it, you know, rather than, I've used these probably hundreds if not thousands of times, these Daniel Smiths, so I know them well. I know how they mix and how they settle and dry, but I think there's something lovely about trying things for the first time. But I'm starting to buy like more singular things, like this Indian ink pencil. I got this in Bradbury Graphics in Belfast, which is a great store and has loads of items that you might not find, like single, like these, like single Derwent Intense pencils. And this Indian ink, I think it was under £3, and I've used it so much and really enjoyed it. So, but I also in the past couple of weeks bought a drone, so let's not talk about that. But hopefully you're enjoying the drone work in the videos, because I am certainly enjoying having them in. Any places you'd like me to visit and paint in Northern Ireland, I am open to suggestions. Okay, so we have 20 people online, a couple of people commenting. Oh, there's Graham Thompson. Hello, Graham. I'm guilty of buying things thinking a new media might improve my paintings, but I'm still rubbish no matter what. Now, Graham, that's not the most helpful thing to say about yourself. Those kind of negative comments, you might want to hold those thoughts captive and just keep going, and you will find your style. But yes, I hear you. Although, there is an element of truth in that. Finding the Derwent Inktense pencils for me was a game changer because I really love them. So, the hunt for Red October just came into my head. But the hunt for supplies that really work for us, I think, is a good thing. Okay. Just adding in more here. Hopefully this is starting to pop a little bit more. You're starting to see some more of the detail. Colorsmith, I just bought the Inktense pen because of you. Oh, why? You're all starting to blame me. The Inktense pencils are great. I don't think you'll regret that purchase. Okay, now noticing, what am I noticing? These steps down here. So we're just going to add that little bit of colour in there. Okay, now what I'm going to do then is move across more to the grass again. Actually, this is a good point to attend to these rocks that are really very dark down here. Finding the darkest point and the lightest point in your picture is really helpful, and I don't really have a method or a distinct process for doing that. I just know that at some point it happens, and at that point then it is actually a real game changer because you're defining those values. And actually, let me just drop in a little bit of that there. It's about the most wet on wet action that you'll ever see me do. You also notice that in that area is the sea, so I want to be able to communicate that that's the sea, and I need to remember to add that in, seeing as he goes. Colorsmith, now I own both inks, Indian and Chinese. And it becomes like, oh, you start to say to yourself, I need this in my life. Graham says, have you ever used the Inktense pan sets? Yes, I have. I actually have them under my desk here. There's one, I bought the Inktense, the pan, and I'll show you this. Where did I put it? Did this a couple of days ago, and I don't love it. And one of the things I don't love about it is that it actually sort of glitters and shimmers. And I don't love that. So that's actually really put me off them. I was experimenting with more sort of Turnerish colours, and I did that. Sometimes I really enjoy painting when it's like low light in the living room, and just then sort of seeing what colours you end up with, and it can be really very interesting. But when I looked at that in the light, I thought, I do not like this shimmery kind of tone of this at all. It's just a bit, it just doesn't work for me. So I also have the tinted charcoal. Really like the tinted charcoal. I think they're very good. Okay, so we're getting there. We're starting to. This is now layer 2 on the sea. Just one layer in the sky, 2 layers in the sea. Second layer on the ruins, and we've actually done, I think, 3 layers on the grass. So we're going to go to it, and I would say probably layer 4 or 5 will finish the grass. Maybe one more with the building. We'll see. The sea, I don't need to add anything more to. So just this kind of slow process of building. Okay, Colorsmith, getting the values right. That's a point I struggle with. You do it beautiful. Well, thanks very much. I think it's a practice thing. You just keep going with it. Now, at this point, do I? Maybe not at this point. Do I? I was going to say, do I add in the yellow ochre that happens? That is happening on that kind of a grassy area. I'm not going to add that in just yet. I'm going to add in a little bit of perline green. This is great having this sheet beside me here. So just adding in these different shapes to this area here. Okay, another comment. Theomir needed that tinted charcoal XL blocks. They're very expensive though. I mean, I do. I love the Inktense, but they are not cheap by any stretch. I think that my concern with the XL blocks is that they would wear down very quickly. So that would be a consideration for me in purchasing them, I'm not going to lie. I have some of the Inktense blocks, not the XL ones. They are good. Find them a little bit too chunky. So, it's okay. Okay, so anybody, we've got 23 on. This is great. Thank you for logging on, everyone. Do keep commenting. I know some of you maybe don't like to comment in, but it is really lovely to hear from you, and also just it adds to the process of doing a live. So do feel free. No question. There are no silly questions. Where the guy I know had said, don't ever, was it, deny knowledge or asking a question for the appearance of looking like a fool. And actually tends to be as well when you ask questions that other people go, I've always wondered that too. And actually, from the my point of view, when you ask questions, it causes me to think further about the process that I go through, which is really, really helpful, because it means that I can teach it and explain it better. So to everyone who is asking questions, I am much appreciated. I'll be a better teacher for it. Okay, so just adding in. I'm going to go to the sap green again. Just to lift it ever so slightly in some areas. Yeah, look at that. That amazing. Just adding a little flourish of a colour, and there it is. Just can kind of lift the whole thing. Bonnie, did you hear that other dog giving off? And you're being great in the corner here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let's let that dry, and let's go back across again to the castle. So I'm going to take a little bit of, what is that, raw sienna light, mix it in here just for this. Oh, let's add in more raw sienna light, just for, there's just a couple of lighter sections there. Bring about a little bit of differentiation between a couple of different sections. Now is this, let's add it there as well. Actually down to this side here. Gets a little bit too yellow ochre for me. Let's dull this down ever so slightly. So I added in there a little bit of burnt sienna, and then I've added in a little bit of Payne's Grey. Now the Payne's Grey should really start to settle it back down again. Yeah, there we go. Sharon Foster, one of my fellow urban sketchers, used the Inktense blocks as a palette, picking up pigment with a wet brush. Nice. Yeah, I understand that. I would probably only ever do something like that if I didn't have my palette with me. So, but I mean, if I didn't, then that's going to work all right. Right. Actually, so I'm going to clear off the brush and lift a little bit of that. It's just a little bit too kind of yellowy for me, and I'm going to replace it with the, there we go, the colour that we've been using all along. I'm going to actually let that run over, because this section is much, much darker. Just a couple of embellishments across there. And this idea of kind of building this up as it's nice and dry, and how the layers work together and respond together is so helpful. Okay, we're nearing the end here, folks. I don't have interest in spending hours and hours and hours on paintings, and also I don't think there's the need to do that. I mean, certainly if I do need to do that and it's something much more in depth, or actually, here's another thing, if it's really frustrating me, then leaving it and coming back to it is so helpful. It just gives you fresh eyes and a renewed kind of grace for it, you know. Okay, I've deliberately left those a little bit light. I'm just going to add a little bit. Okay, and just that little section there. Okay, now what I don't want to do is forget that I need to hint at the blue here. There we go. That should be more than enough. So last couple of moments here, folks, before we're going to go offline. So any questions that you might have, do ask. Just going to take the yellow ochre here now. So the yellow ochre and green is so Northern Irish to me, because you know, what we call them the jaggies, but they're gorse bushes that, and we call them the jaggies growing up. But I mean, that's the colours of my youth and my summers, is the gorse, you know, the yellow of the gorse. And actually it's different points in the year it's yellow ochre, other times it's like a cadmium yellow, like nearly like a sunflower yellow, and that really isn't it amazing how certain colours, like if I'm in a different part of the world, then those colours are going to be different, and then that kind of spills on through into just a couple of different sections. Now I do want, just as I'm looking at this, the grass needs a bit more tonal values present. I'm taking the undersea green and I'm just going to, now obviously we haven't used the hairdryer for a wee bit, which is great. Just adding in a little bit more details we go across here. Now we kind of had a cauliflower or a pulling that happened here because of the hairdryer, so just wanting to touch that a little bit. Okay, really don't want to overwork this, so let's lift this little bit here and here. Okay, there we go. Let me pull it up a little bit closer. So there's the process that I go through to arrive at the conclusion of the painting. So that is Dunluce Castle. Colorsmith says, just want to say thank you, you're so welcome. Hey John, looking forward to seeing you soon. It should be up online anyway, so you can check it out later. Graham, many thanks. Colin, love the picture, and I've taken some ideas from them. I'm glad that was the whole point. Tremendous. Thank you to everybody who logged on, watches my videos, supports me in any shape or form. I appreciate your questions and comments. Check out the video that I put on yesterday of Nendra Monastic site. Some beautiful drone views in that, and also just really simply using the Inktense watercolor pencils. But thanks everyone, and get in touch. Okay, bye for now. Have a good Friday.